Peace, King.
Good to see you, brother.
Blessings. Last time I seen you was in New York.
Yeah,
No
it
doubt,
was.
no doubt.
It was.
So, being so young in the game, and like I said, last time we saw each other was in New York, and we were talking about the police brutality, and we had a lot of soldiers, we had a lot of the fathers, and some others of the victims of police brutality, police terror. And I've seen you become one of the young soldiers, being a frontline soldier into battling police brutality, police terror. What is your take now that it's been a year? Here we are in August.
Yeah.
And we are now being able to see what the police have done to respond to the people, and it has been really nothing. What the people have done to respond to the police, where are we at from a year with all those murders to right now continually seeing more murders? Some of the highlights of those murders, and I don't want to say highlight like a good thing, but Sandra Bland being one of the new major figures of the face of police brutality, police terror. Where do you see we're at after a year?
That's an excellent question. And first and foremost, I really want to thank you for allowing me on.
Indeed.
It's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's always a beautiful thing when brothers who are a little bit older, right, invite those of us who are younger to step up and to try to do our work, right? So where are we a year after Mike Brown? Well, in a lot of ways, brother, we're being really honest, we're in the same place. We're in the same place we were when Brown versus Board of Education was passed.
No doubt.
We're in the same place we were when the Civil Rights Act was passed. We're in the same place we've been at as a people. And that is because we continue to expect and to rely upon a government that does not love us to treat us right. We need to be exceedingly clear that we will not get justice from this government without having a consequence to deliver to this government. So a year later, we see Sandra Bland. A year later, we see the brother who was just murdered in Oakland. And so we really need to sit back and question and have what the Panthers call ruthless criticism, right? We need to have a depth of analysis that helps us to understand why is it that a year after starting this, right, the practical and functional conditions of the people have not changed. And this is not to suggest that freedom or liberation can happen in a year, but it is to suggest to us that we must go beyond a protest. We must go beyond a hashtag. We must go beyond keyboard revolutionaries. And we must get into the streets of actually doing the work of building mass movement. And it's going to take work. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy. And most importantly, it's going to take sacrifice. And so if we're going to be serious, we're going to need to unite. And that is why Minister Farrakhan has called us for the 20th anniversary of the Merry Man March, justice or else, right? Either we will get justice or there'll be a consequence to not getting justice. So we've been saying Black Lives Matter, but clearly that isn't believed in America. How do we make Black Lives Matter? We make them consequential. We give them a statement, justice or else.
Now, before we get into justice or else, because that's definitely one of the questions that I want to know, because a statement like that, justice or else, it's a very demanding, very pointed, very accurate statement. There's no sugarcoating. When we go back and we think about it, not only have we had the police brutality, terror, murders continue, but now we have the residue of hate crimes and hate groups coming out. And we've seen more hangings of our black men and women. And as we saw in the South Carolina situation, those 9 dead, where do you feel we are at? Not only as individuals, as black men and women, but as other people of color who say they want to be able to help move this Black Lives movement forward. Where do you see we're at right now? Because now we are getting attacked on all ends.
Well, Minister Farrakhan said that what we are about to witness, and he predicted that all of this would happen. He said we're about to witness that God is going to pull off the mask of civility of our enemies. You see, some of us got real comfortable.
Yes, sir.
Some of us got real satisfied. Yes, sir. And sometimes when you're comfortable, it's easy to fall asleep. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It's harder to fall asleep when I'm standing on my feet. But if I'm laying down in the bed, if I'm laying in the bed with the enemy, it becomes real easy to fall asleep. If the enemy is providing me with a good job, right, it's easy to fall asleep. So many of us as a people and as a collective, we've fallen asleep. And so now what's happening is that the sleeping are now being awoken because the mask of civility is being removed and the enemy is being revealed for who he has always been. The fact of the matter is, we've been at a war on many fronts for a long time.
Indeed.
The problem is, people have been at war with us, but we have not been at war with them. See, you can be in a war and not be at a war. We've been in a war and been the victims of a war, but we haven't been doing the fighting necessary to actually combat a war. So Justice Rouse says, hey, look, we've been under attack for 450 years. Now is about the time where we both have a generation and we have the cultural context that mandates we must stand up and step up and do something.
So when you look at it, because I think one of your Facebook posts was talking about, we can't really be in a war because, in a war, it's tit for tat. And blacks, as I've looked at it and you look at it, this war is against us. We're not actually in a war. And some people will say, no, we're at war. No, we're not at war because there has been no casualties on the other side. And if there's been casualties, it wasn't directly because Sandra Bland got shot, because Mike Brown got killed, and we're not advocating violence. But in its times to where we keep on from all ends getting attacked, what are us as Africans, black people in the community, what are we supposed to do?
I think point number one is to unite. One of the biggest problems that we have is that we lack unity.
Okay. And when you say unite, and what end? Are we talking about the churchgoers come together?
I'm talking about all of us.
Okay.
Because when you get shot by the police, they don't ask you, are you a Muslim? Are you a Christian? Are you black? Are you male? Are you female? Are you queer? They don't ask none of that. All they say, oh, that's a nigga. His life is not consequential. His life has no value. Her life has no value. Her life is not consequential. Therefore, we can take him out. So we unite on the basis of that which makes us the same. And that is the fact that we are black people, living under the same oppressor, suffering from the same forms of oppression. So that is the point at which we unite, right? And then from a place of unity, we must get behind proper and effective and good proven leadership. Because it is only behind good leadership that we actually can do the work necessary to free our people. So Isaiah the prophet says in the Bible that their leaders cause them to err. And I think we can look at the condition of our people and we can demonstrate we've had leadership, but our leaders have led us astray. We've had leadership, but our leaders have been cowards. We've had leadership, but our leaders have been unwilling to try something new and something different, meaning that we're no longer going to try to do the typical public policy approach. We're no longer going to try to do the typical approach of convincing white America to be sympathetic with our cause, because we have 450 years of history that demonstrates otherwise.
Now, when we talk about leadership, and I've been very direct about different things that our leadership has shown, whether it be in the local venues or even to the national venues. And we know a lot of the leaders that get a lot of the crap is Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. But then when we look at into our own basis of local leadership, and we have basically in Sacramento, California, we have 4 black men in city council. But the conditions of the black men and
don't
women
demonstrate that.
It don't demonstrate even having one. And 2 of the brothers have been caught into some kind of sex scandals, and you know what happens with brothers in power or just men in power in general. But when we talk about leadership failing, and when we look across the board in the United States, whether it be Detroit, whether it be Louisiana, whether it be Washington D.C., black men in leadership, Philadelphia, it has almost been kind of like we're going to give them something to have them be quiet, but in reality, that black face is really a white figure. You know what I mean? Like in LA, we had Tom Bradley in there for many decades, or many years probably, and nothing subsequently happened that was real pertinent to police brutality. It was so out of control, and then when you look back into time, you're like, wait a minute, a black man was at the head of that. What do you feel we need to do with the leadership that we have right now?
Well, I think, to be honest, we need to hold them accountable in the same way we'll hold anybody accountable. Just because you're black don't mean you're going to advocate for me. Everybody that's of my kin ain't my kind. As one of my elders told me. All of my kin ain't my kind. Your blackness don't mean you're going to advocate for me. No, anybody that's in a position of leadership, now is the time you're going to be held to account. Because we cannot tolerate as a people having black people in these positions, and then all they are doing is imitating the same thing that the white man did. So at this time in our history, we have to come to a place as a people where it's like, I don't give a dang what your color is, what your sex is, what your gender is. What are you going to do to see our people free? And that's the first thing. As a people, we need to hold them accountable. Okay. The second thing is that we need to understand something. And we need to understand that anybody in a position of leadership inside of their world is always going to be subject to their rules, their ways, their culture.
And when you say their world, who you...
I'm talking about the white world. Okay. The world that was built on the principle of white supremacy and white domination. They are leaders inside of their world. As I heard one brother say, if America is Egypt, then Obama is Pharaoh. And we need to understand that, right? If we are living in the house of the oppressor, and we have someone with a black face, we need to understand what their role is in that context. Obama is a manager of white affairs. Obama's not interested in freeing and the liberation of black people, and even if he were completely committed to that idea, he could not do that in the seat of presidency. And no elected official can free us. We are the ones who must free us, and we absolutely must get rid of this idea of waiting on other people to free us when we are the ones who must free ourselves.
So when you say waiting on other people and we need to be the ones that free us, do you feel that Africans have sat there and waited for the equality, waited for the reparations, waited for like that Jesus to come down and say, my people are free? You feel like more or less white supremacy is here and we know it, but we're kind of just waiting on Superman to come save us from it?
Well, I think it's a couple of pieces. First, I would say black people, Africans, we have always resisted, right? Yeah. We've always found means and methods of fighting back. The problem is far too often when some of us begin to resist, the rest of us go, oh, okay. them what them Negroes doing? Massa, they trying to have a revolt. Yeah. See, that's the problem. Is that too many of us, when some of us are willing to put our lives down for freedom and justice and equality, too many of us just want to look and see how it plays out and wait until we can figure out who's going to win. Too many of us sit back and watch and then go snitch to the master. That's the real problem. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that's the first piece. The second piece, to be honest, in the modern context, a lot of our leadership, talk about a leaderless movement. You don't have movement without leadership, right?
And a lot of people talk about we don't need leaders.
And we do need leaders, right? You see, if you go and study the COINTELPRO documents of the FBI, the counterintelligence program, what J. Edgar Hoover said, and this is very interesting, he said that his goal was to prevent the rise of a black messiah who could unify the militant this man that we know ain't no God-loving man, right? Based on his actions toward us, and his language is a theological language saying we want to prevent the rise of a messiah. Why? Because they want to prevent the ability of a black person to actually lead us. See, they want us to be stuck in the turbulence of division. And a lot of times we buy into that. So every time a leader pops up, or every time someone calls for something, the first thing Negroes do is the crabs in the barrel syndrome. Who made you the leader? I don't like you. Why don't you come follow me? Right? You do first AME. Well, I'm going to do second AME. You see, our problem is that we allow ego and envy to destroy our ability to unite. So we must deal with those personal sentiments, because when we get rid of those, then we can actually unite. And so we do need leadership, right? We do need men and women who can really bring us together. But we cannot expect that just because there's a good leader in front of us, that absolves us of having to work. You see, too many of us want to see freedom, but don't want to sacrifice for it. Too many of us want to see a nation, but don't want to build one. You see, so we have a dissonance between what we say we want to see and what we're willing to give to see it. And so if we see a leader like Minister Farrakhan who's calling us to unite, calling us to demand justice or else, then the wise man and woman looks at that and says, I need to help that man. I need to help that woman, because God gave that man or woman the ability to make the call. Yes, it's my duty, my revolutionary responsibility to see how I can help.
And others kind of don't take the call because they feel, well, why? And you get a lot of debate, well, that's just another march.
Where it's fear.
Yeah.
It comes down to fear, to be really honest,
Fear
right?
and ignorance.
It's fear and ignorance.
Fear
That's
and
what it comes to, straight up, straight down. After all the BS that they use to masquerade it, it's fear and ignorance. If I take a wipe and I'll rub their face, I'm gonna see fear and ignorance. Because that's really what it is, right? And so we use excuses as to why I don't think or else is necessary, or why just or else is a problem, this and that and the other. No, it's fear. Yeah. You're scared. And that's okay. You know, fear is natural. Fear is natural, but we can't be free and in fear at the same time.
Really can't.
They're antithetical. And so if you have that fear in you, it's okay. Conquer it. Look it in the mirror and say, I'm going to get rid of this fear. Because fear will forever prevent us from being free.
So now, going into that, we talk about freedom, we talk about the police killings, and maybe this call wouldn't be so pointed if the police, who I believe have a green light on assassinating blacks in America, maybe it wouldn't be so pointed to say this is justice or else. A statement like that, clearly you and I, we don't need to beat around the bush on it. It's a very clear statement. It's a very clear challenge.
Yes, it is.
And it demands something from the oppressor. It demands something from white supremacy. It demands something from the black people.
Absolutely.
And it also leaves individuals not really knowing what they're getting themselves get into. We do know that there'll be FBI, CIA, there'll be all of the faculties there watching, taking pictures, doing whatever they do. But in a statement where a bunch of us men are gathered, we are declaring something. Are we declaring war on America, or are we declaring that we are going to start taking justice in our own hands? What is the statement, justice or else, mean?
That's a very good question.
Because we're running around with it.
I understand.
Justice or else. I understand, like, justice or else, so that means it's, okay, so we're saying this is what's going to happen. You have 5 days, and this is what we're going to do, because that's how people are taking it. I've watched and I've heard how people are trying to slam Farrakhan. We talked off the record about certain different things that have been going on that I didn't know that was happening. You know, with the nation and some of the chains put on the nations for certain different things. And clearly now that we're getting closer and closer to that moment, now people are now paying more attention. And it's the other people. Plenty of distractions going on, but it's almost a statement of, are you going to deliver in what you say? Because here you're saying justice or else. So are you on a bargaining chip? And I think that's what a lot of other individuals are kind of barking from the stance, like, okay, so what is it going to do? All right, so what are we going to do? Are we going to justice or else? They know what it means, and we believe the oppressor knows what it means. So what is that statement clearly saying? We can't go onto a boat and ride off to Africa. People aren't going to leave their jobs. You're going to have all those brothers, over probably 1 million, if not 1 million, right there standing, waiting to get clear directions on what this actually means. Justice or else.
I think that's an excellent question. What I would say is that justice is a principle that we all desire.
True.
It is a principle that is built into the nature of the human being to go after. And it's also built into the nature of the human being that when justice is not delivered, it's built into your very composition to do something to ensure that it is. And if it is not delivered long enough, Minister Farrakhan teaches that injustice creates an imbalance of the mind. And so I say that to say, this is a statement that really is offering a last chance to the United States of America to provide what it should have provided a long time ago. You know, Thomas Jefferson wrote in his memoirs, he said, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just and that his justice cannot sleep forever. Well, now we're living in the time where Thomas Jefferson's tremble is about to become a very real reality in America. Well, he trembled on the idea that one day what they have sown, they shall also reap. We are living in that time. We are living in the time where either they will repent and repair and repay for the damage that has been done, or the God that backs us with our help and through us will deliver a consequence for those actions. So what does justice or else mean? Well, anytime a messenger of God is raised, they're raised to give a warning and a threat. And it is both. It's a warning and a threat. That if this country does not give justice to God's people, the black man and woman, there definitively will be consequences. And one thing I'd like to say is this, people ask, what is the or else? What is Farrakhan going to do? And, how do I know this is real? Well, look, check the record. Check the record. Anytime that man has said he would do something, it was done. Anytime that man has said that he would help black people, we were helped. Anytime that man has said that something would be delivered, it has been delivered. And so that question is to come up in my mind.
Yeah.
Because I know his record. And I know his record and his skill set. And as a general, I know that man knows how to properly position us. See, the fact of the matter is nobody else is calling for justice or else. The rest of us are kind of satisfied, with a little disturbance here and there. But only him, by the inspiration of God, would make a statement like that.
What, you don't think that and believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is asking for that same kind of justice? You don't believe that it's the same kind of statement as they are, showing up to a lot of political candidates who are going for presidency? They're showing up to their little events and they're just starting up a lot of ruckus and they're still doing a lot of the stuff that they did in the beginning of the movement. You don't feel like their disturbances are saying the same exact thing?
Not the same exact thing, and here's why. You see, in Islam, our holy book, the Holy Quran, it teaches us that retaliation is prescribed for you in the matter of the slain. Retaliation is a prescription, the minister said, from God to calm the heart of those who have been oppressed. That's a statement there. To say that God is instructing us to position ourselves in a way that we can defend our lives.
True.
Right? That God's order for us, and I'm a soldier, right? God's order for me is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and a life for a life. That's slightly different, That's slightly different. And so this is a very serious call, because it is calling those who have fearlessness in their hearts to step up and to step out as a soldier. You fearless? Soldier up. The scripture says, make all the men ready for war. And that's the time we're living in. So it's a slightly different statement. And it's a necessary statement, because we've tried being peaceful.
Thank you. Yeah, we've done it all.
You see, we've tried going through legislation. We've tried voting. We've tried it all. And Farrakhan comes back and says, look, the Nation of Islam has offered this for 84 years. Do for self. Don't expect the enemy to give you justice. He does not have justice in him to give to you. Stand up and get justice for yourself. So that's the hour we're living in.
So we are right here smack down in like the hours of chaos. and as when I just watching the movie Straight Outta Compton recently, and watching police brutality, looking at it currently, and then being a part of these different committees trying to break this cycle. But then when I look at it and I research it and I go into seeing all the different things that we have done in my community in Sacramento and throughout the United States, there's no accountability that the police want to take at anything. It's always about the community doing this, and a lot of the problems have been because it's been produced and promoted by white supremacy. And when I see now this uproar, this revolution, this new evolution of individuals who are standing up I mean the common folk, just standing up. Do you believe when we talked about earlier unity, that with this unity that we lack in the black community, because there's other individuals that have been helping push the movement forward as far as saying that our lives matter, or just talking about police brutality, police terror as a whole, and different social issues that need to change. Do you feel with the unsettled unity that we have in the black community, that it's going to be able to get done, justice or else, because we're so scatterbrained?
That's a good question. You know, the minister teaches us that God is going to force us to unite. You see, oh, I love this, man. I love this. You see, if God is on your side, brother, then there's no doubt about whether or not you'll be successful. The only question is when. You see, God desires for us to be free. Otherwise, he's a racist. Pick your choice. Yes, I think God desires for us to be free. Now, if God desires for us to be free, then he executes his will by organizing forces, resources, angels, and people, and organizing them in a way to produce the desired result. Now, check this out. You see, God will work in a way where he will force the enemy, or he will allow the enemy to unleash rabid brutality, because the rabid brutality is going to force us to unite. You see, I don't care what you think about me or what I think about you. If somebody runs into this door trying to kill both of us, I guarantee you we're going to start working together real quick. You see, so what God is organizing on our behalf. He said, look, I've tried to have you to unite for hundreds of years, and you have not united. So you know what? I'm going to let the enemy force you to unite. And I'm going to allow him to do that by lifting up the mask of civility and the hypocrisy that he has had. And now white folks are just straight up, yeah, we don't like you niggers. Yeah, we'll see you in D.C. I say, yeah, come on and see us. You see, when God is working, brother, sometimes he works in a way that we might not understand. But the scripture says all things work for good for those who love the Lord. And so the way that it's happening is that we're being forced to unite, brother. We don't have a choice in the matter anymore. You black? Okay, you're a target. Yeah. Great, let's work together.
And I hear that, King, and I definitely hear that.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say the same, that I believe we're being forced, but I see so many walking, shaded faces, shaded eyes, like none of this stuff even deals with their life.
Yeah. We'll give it time. That's all I would say. Because what we're going to watch and what the minister's already told us. I mean, he told us this a while ago, right? And now we're seeing it come into reality. They can keep on walking being blind, brother. But sooner or later it's going to touch them. You see, you can act as if that fire isn't over there burning, right? I mean, think about a forest fire. And that's kind of how police brutality is right now. It's like a forest fire. And I might be 10 miles away and I'm looking at it. Yeah, but you keep on standing there and don't call the fire department. See how long it takes to get to you.
Yes, sir.
You see, so everybody that wants to ignore the things that are happening to our people, just stay alive long enough. It'll touch you. You know what I'm saying? Yes, so we're going to be forced to unite.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice in the matter.
I like that. Stay alone. But at the same time, a lot of individuals, and I've gone into debate with individuals that say the Jim Crow laws are, that's irrelevant, that mass incarceration is not the new slavery, and that black people in America has elevated, we have a black president.
And you know, I was talking to a sister yesterday who at one time was really opposed to the minister, and she supports him now. And she's actually going to be in D.C. and she's going to bring some middle school students from Oakland that she's currently fundraising to bring. And you know, I asked her, I said, what changed? How did you come to
this? Love him and be going to D.C. now? I said, boy, that's love and trust, right? And she said, yeah. I was just, it was all theoretical for me. I read these books, you know, people taught me X, Y, and Z, and I thought I knew. And she said, yeah, but one day I stepped into the classroom and I started teaching black and brown boys and girls, and I said, wow, everything he said was true. So the thing is, you know, I don't spend as much time debating folks anymore, because I don't need to. I don't need to prove to you that this government don't care about you. It's proven already.
It's proven it itself. And if you don't want to recognize that, there's nothing I'm going to say to prove it to you even more. So I'm just going to I'm gonna do my work over here. You do your work over there. You think voting is gonna free us? You go ahead over there and vote. And sooner or later, the fire of the enemy is gonna touch you. Our job then is to set up the organization and the structure necessary that when they're ready to come back, we can receive them.
Black liberation, what is that?
Black liberation means that we have control over our own lives. It means we can determine our own destiny. It looks like land. It feels like land. It tastes like water that comes from our lands. You see, black liberation means that we are completely in control of our own destiny. That's when we'll be liberated.
Black Lives Matter or Black Power Matters? Which one do you fall under?
Both.
Why?
Both. Well, black lives do matter. Black lives matter because from black life comes all life. So if black lives don't matter, then no lives matter. And we need to first and foremost prove to ourselves that black lives matter. See, every time I do something that's inhibiting my health, I'm not treating black life like it matters.
Like smoking cigarettes?
Absolutely.
Consuming alcohol?
Absolutely. I'm destroying the life that I have. Every time I can look to my brother or my sister and I can disseminate distrust and envy, I'm saying that black lives don't matter. Every time I can be willing to look in the mirror and tell myself that I am not beautiful, I am saying that black lives don't matter. So black lives do matter, and black power does matter. You see, because in order to force black lives to matter to ourselves and to the world, we need to have a power behind the statement.
Yes, sir.
So Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. And Minister Farrakhan added, but that demand must be backed by power. See, power is the ability to get things done in a specific amount of time. How long have we been striving to get free? And the fact that we've been striving to get free for so long is a demonstration of the fact that we are powerless. Well, as Brother Kwame Ture said, not only are we a people without power, but in America, power is property. And not only are we propertyless, we have become property. Check that out. So we need to regain power for ourselves so that we can determine our own destiny.
Can white America just give us an apology? Say sorry for slavery?
Hell no.
Sorry
I'm not interested in your apology unless your apology is backed up by some land.
Okay. So would you rather take land before money?
Absolutely. I don't need some dead white men in my pockets. What I'm gonna do with that? The dollar's worth nothing as it is.
Yes, sir.
Give us some land so that we can build a nation for our people if you're serious about your apology.
So you believe that the reality is that for too long we've walked, everybody has got theirs, whether it be the Asians, whether it be the Mexicans, whether it be the Indians, whether it be the Jews, everyone has gotten their piece of the pie of we're sorry for whatever we've done, let's move forward. But it only looks as us being the only ones that are still waiting for the table. Even the slave owners got paid when they let the slaves go free. Like, that's what people I don't think sometimes really realize. Like, the slave owners got money for letting the slaves go. And that was $300 a slave at that time, and that was real money.
Yeah.
So what does America currently have to do besides saying no longer are we going to have the green light to kill your people? But what else does it have to do? Because it just can't just be a few indictments that they've been doing lately with the police brutality and murder. And we're not going for that. Because we don't even know if we're going to get justice to try. You know, it's like, let's have them stop riot, indict some of these guys, okay? But what has to happen for white America to really realize, and I know they hate it when I say white America, but it is true. It's like we're not the ones that had the problems. They got the problem with us. And even with all that is being done, you still have a lot of Africans that are willing to work with white America and willing to deal with white America as if nothing happened. So what would white America, or the government, what would they have to do in a whole to make sure that this thing doesn't boil over to something that, I've said it before, becomes something like a race war? What would they have to do?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that if they were serious about their quote-unquote apologies and their desire to give freedom, justice, and equality to the black man and woman, they would give us some land. Cut up some states that are fertile and minerally rich, and allow us to live there and to develop a nation for our people, and provide us sustenance for the first 20 to 25 years, then let us be. That's if they were serious. Yeah. The problem is they ain't really serious. No. You see, that's what a serious response from the United States government would look like. But I also want to add, even though some other communities have gotten forms of reparations from this government, everyone is still living with the sting of the serpent of white supremacy. So everyone, not just black people, everyone should be willing to unite behind us to demand and to ensure that justice is delivered or else. So we're not just calling on the black man and woman to come to D.C. We're calling on our Native brothers and sisters. We're calling on our Chicano Latino brothers and sisters. Oh, really? We're calling on South American brothers and sisters.
So this is a call for men.
This is a call for men and women. Oh, okay. Anybody who has experienced injustice in the hells of North America, we are calling on you to stand up, to step out, and to build. Get behind us.
Justice or else, a lot of the media wants to make it seem like it is a black call attack. Mm-hmm. It's a declaration of war.
Well, the media is a liar. They're one of the biggest liars we have in this country. Yeah. And the problem is we have a free press who does not tell the truth. And if they don't tell the truth, then the people cannot make decisions on the basis of truth. Yes, so you can't have a free nation without a free press that is actually telling the truth. The press is bought and paid for. And as a result, the people are always feeding on manure. Yes, and if you feed on manure, how healthy can you be?
How can you be healthy?
You know what I'm saying? So we need to support our own independent press, like what you're doing, like the Final Call newspaper. And until we do that, we're going to continue to be satisfied with nothing.
Why do you feel black America is okay? Or should I say not all of black America, but a majority of black America are okay. 9 people die in South Carolina, the church is talking about heal. All right?
Well, I think increasingly as we continue to live, black America isn't okay. You see, and the idea that black America is okay only indicates to us that there's a sickness in black America. You see? And that sickness is the kind of sickness that allows somebody if somebody were to hit a hammer on my toe and I didn't respond, you act like something's wrong with me. You see? When you go to the doctor's office, they hit your knee, see if you're going to jerk, to see if everything's working. See, something's wrong with us. That my brother or my sister can be murdered and not have no reaction to it. Something's wrong with us. That my brother or my sister could be strung out on crack cocaine or heroin or Molly and I have no reaction to it. Something's wrong. So we must repair the nervous system of black America. And how do we do that? We gotta love each other. Yes, sir. See? But I'll say again, the enemy is going to force us to be that way. You know? So increasingly, every day that goes by, we have 54 days at the time of this recording before justice or else. And every day that goes by, brother, more and more, and in the tens and thousands, people are joining on with this call. Yes, sir. Because now is the time.
Now is the time.
Now is the time for us to be free. For our final push into the promised land.
The real promised land.
The land. Key word, right?
Yes, sir. Land. Now, blacks moving forward, what are 3 things we need to do? You said 1 was unite. We're going to keep that on there. So let's go 3 more.
Okay. So if 1 is unite, 3 more.
Moving forward.
Conquer your fear. Conquer your personal fear. That's 1. 2, clean up your life.
Clean up your life, no doubt.
Clean up your life. We need soldiers willing to do what is necessary for our people. And we need people that are serious about this. You cannot be serious about liberation. You cannot be serious about liberation and you won't take care of your children. Clean up your life.
No doubt.
Number 3, study, pray, and find good leadership. Study, pray, and find good leadership. Ignorance is killing us. It's murdering us.
And do you feel that ignorance from the media or ignorance that we see with peer pressure in the schools or just...
Well, ignorance means to not know.
Yes, sir.
You see? So you have a couple of categories of this. Some of us fall into a category of what we call culpable ignorance, meaning you don't know and you know you don't know, but you're not doing the work necessary to know. Others of us fall into a category of misinformation, meaning we've tried to hear some stuff, but we're tuning in to our enemy who has not treated us right to teach us right. And Elijah Muhammad said that any man that will not treat you right will not teach you right. Now others of us fall into a category, well, we have just never known any better. Ignorance must be solved. It must be eradicated. It's the enemy of freedom.
Ignorance.
So study, pray, and find good leadership.
When you say good leadership,
Good.
that's important. I have one more question because I brother, and I appreciate it, and it's so refreshing to see a young brother like yourself that's not caught up into the hype, that has actually took a stand, and a real strong stance, and delivering a real polished message. It's going to be a problem when you get to be 30, when you really know where you're going, because you know where you're going right now, when you really, it's crazy. The Negro P, the Coon, the Uncle Tom, the agent.
Yes, sir.
The brother that has the black face with the white mask.
Yes, sir.
The sister that parades around saying that she's all down with the cause, but then she's doing the things that she do.
Yes, sir.
What do we do with them? Do all the brothers and sisters, regardless of whatever they've done, do we all bring them in when it comes to that time? When we finally won and they come out the shadows from wherever layer they were at or wherever side?
I don't believe. That's a very good question.
No, because King, this is almost as if the bigger problem when we talk about black on black crime or whatever you want to say, this is what really black on black crime is to me, when we have our own people. Exactly. Seriously, I mean, when they're in the government, we talked about that earlier. They're in the streets when they're polluting the community, and then they're selling our girls, and they're everywhere. They're in the media, and mostly in the media as they're being highlighted as rappers, athletes, and actors and actresses that do nothing for the community. And when they do one little thing, we want to, they're the greatest thing, and look at our cities.
I don't believe that those who are not willing to build a nation for freedom, justice, and equality can justifiably benefit from the resources of that nation. You see, justice is as a man or woman sows, the same shall they also reap. If you don't sow the seeds of freedom and liberation, how do you expect to experience it? If you sow the seeds of treason, what will be the tree that you get? What's the fruit going to be?
Yeah, most definitely.
You see, all of us must take a moment and really question ourselves and understand, am I committed to this or not? And if you're not committed, you see, don't come running over here when it's time for us to experience the joy of struggle.
Yes, sir.
You see, we have too many people that want to see with their eyes what freedom looks like, but they want to wait until it gets here.
Don't want to do the work.
No, brother. I believe in a God who mandates, as a person sows, the same shall they reap. You sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. You sow the seed of cowardice, you reap the whirlwind of cowardice. I believe that's how that will go. Now, that's not to say that anybody and everybody that isn't in an organization or isn't, doing what I define as work for our people is automatically they're not going to make it. That is to say we all must do something. That is to say that if we do not do anything, then God would be justified in looking at us and say, hey, I'm only going to judge you by your works. But he is the master in Islam of the day of judgment in which we now live. Meaning that there are some that God might see and say, look, this person didn't really put in work, but there's something inside of them that is so valuable to our people that we can bring them in anyway. So that's how I would answer that.
Yeah, Yeah, that's a very touchy subject because I think that there's not going to be all of us that's going to be coming to the promised land.
That very well may so be true. That very well may be true.
Definitely. But
see, God only. You see, we only need the people with the right material.
Yes, sir.
We cannot build a nation for ourselves with people that are afraid to be on our own.
Yes, sir.
You see, in the scriptures, after Moses took the children of Israel, a little biblical piece, right? But after Moses took the children of Israel out, and they had went and scouted the promised land, right? And he had sent some scouts for it, and the elders said, they said, no, we're not going up in there, Moses. The master got some giants in the land. So Moses said, oh, really? You're afraid of the giants? And so you would rather go back to Pharaoh? So, oh, really? Okay. So Moses said, look, this is how we do this. We're going to let all the old heads die out. Oh, man, see. We're going to let all the old heads die out. And then we're going to take the young and allow the young to inherit the promised land because they're willing to fight, to bleed, and to die to establish the promised land. Wow. So that's partially what we're seeing right now. Some of these old cowards.
Get rid of them. They're dying out.
I don't have to touch them. They've become irrelevant.
Yes, sir.
You see? That's why Farrakhan is relevant, though. Because God is with a man that is willing to pay the price for us to be free. So all of us got to look in the mirror. What am I willing to pay? What am I willing to give? What am I willing to sacrifice? And if your answer is nothing, I just want you to take a moment and think. If your answer is that I'm not willing to sacrifice anything for the liberation of my people, then what do you expect for the consequence of that to be?
Justice or else.
That's right.
Peace, brother.